let's take a look at Frank's original thread about me, because this is just insane, unhinged lunacy. Now, before we read this, I want to just, oh shit. Did I not get all of them? Okay, hang on. I want to just show you all of the tweets that Frank has sent about me in the last week. And like, before we get into this unhinged thread, I'm going to give you a basic mise-en-scène of this. Frank McCormick is someone that I used to have on my channel, like several times. You can look up the streams and find them. Frank McCormick, over the years, became, quite frankly, really boring to me. And several months ago, I quietly unfollowed him. I didn't like the stuff he was tweeting. It wasn't relevant to me anymore. I found him to be kind of unhinged. I was like, maybe there were some things that we used to have in common, but we have clearly moved in different directions. And I quietly unfollowed him several months ago. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't post about it on Twitter. I just quietly unfollowed him. When Frank discovered that I unfollowed him, he started posting about me all the fucking time. The tweets that I'm going to show you are just the things that Frank has posted about me literally in the last week. And this isn't even all the stuff he's posted about me. This is just a selection of the tweets that Frank has posted about me in the past week. First off, on October 7th, Frank took this tweet out of context where I said, never forget 1 year ago on October 7th, Israel murdered its own people. Frank said they never failed to find a way to blame the Jews. Now, what's interesting about this tweet is that Frank actually conveniently left out the full context, because this is my actual original tweet. And in my actual original tweet, I included a screenshot from antiwar.com with a report confirms Israel ordered the Hannibal Directive during October 7th response. And everyone can go to antiwar.com and read the article. Basically, an Israeli newspaper reported that Israel did use the Hannibal Directive not only to murder their own military members rather than have them be taken hostage, but they also murdered their own civilians. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from antiwar.com via an Israeli newspaper, and this report was made back in July. And that is what I tweeted. Frank, because Frank has no intellectual integrity, conveniently left that part out. Isn't that interesting? That's not all, though. That's not all. Frank took this blog post that I wrote on my Substack saying, I need your help to expose the agenda of the far left. This post is about how you can help amplify my content on Twitter. This post doesn't even ask for money. If you want to read this post for yourself, you can go to carlin.substack.com and see that this post is about how to amplify my work on Twitter to get more people to see the clips on Twitter. Frank said, by help, Dr. Cluster B means your money because she is unemployable. The fact is, I'm not unemployable. I've been working for myself for over 10 years. I make a living teaching socialism on the internet. Frank is jealous that he can't make a living on the internet. He has to have a real day job. That's what's going on. Not unemployed. I could actually make more money if I went back to corporate coaching, and it wouldn't even be that hard. Oh, we'll get to that. I'll tell people about that. We'll get to that. I have that pulled up. Frank got pissed off when a bot who runs my Carlin Updates account blocked him, because anytime Frank has an opportunity to be an unhinged lunatic in the replies, he does it. He says of bot, she's such a pussy because she blocked him from being able to respond in the replies. One of the things Frank loves to do about me is post pictures of me to get people to call me fat and ugly. And you can see here, this is a picture that's about 4.5 years old that was taken at my first CPAC. Listen, I may not have looked my best at that time, but that was a really fucked up time in my life, if I'm honest about it. And so I looked how I look, and people can judge that if they want. But Frank always does this. Men, never trust a woman whose AI uses an AI generated avatar. And I responded to him, hang on, let me find, that didn't post for some reason. Hang on, hang on. And I responded to him and I said, hey, Frank, why are you using a 4-year-old image of me? Oh, I already had that up. Never mind. I responded to him saying, hey, Frank, why are you using an almost 5-year-old picture of me when you could just use this video that I posted 15 minutes ago to show people what I look like? And he said, if only you would stop. And by the way, I've never unblocked Frank. Frank is a retard, and Frank doesn't understand that if he doesn't block me, I can still reply to his tweets. I've never unblocked Frank. I never will unblock Frank. Frank is an unhinged psycho. Calling me a pussy because I didn't unblock him. And then Frank went to my video and he selected freeze frames that make me not look so great. He literally here's what Frank does. He scrolls through the video and he finds freeze frames in videos where I look like this. Now I'm on video 6 days a week. I don't like being on video 6 days a week, but such as it is. And this is what I look like. And so people can see what's going on here. I would hope. Smart people, anyway. Let's see. Here is where Frank is calling me an obese, childish YouTube watcher, claims to know more about communism than the women who wait for it, survive Mao's Cultural Revolution. Yes, Z Van Fleet is lying to people for money and clout. Absolutely. We've talked about that before. I'm not going to go into that again. Benjamin Boyce just blocked you. We're going to talk about Benjamin Boyce in a second. Stay tuned, kids. Stay tuned. I've got stuff for him, too. I got stuff for our friend Benjamin, too. Hang on. I'm just, making sure I'm deleting these. Oh, check this out. Check this out. So I will admit it. I called Myron Gaines the N-word with the hard R today. I did. I absolutely did. Now, to be quite frank, I don't actually like this word. I have only used this word twice in my life. But both times that I have used this word, it has been directed at Myron Gaines. Do you know why it's been directed at Myron Gaines? Because anytime Myron Gaines has lowered himself to interact with me, here's what happens. Myron Gaines comes to me and goes, "You're a bitch, you're a whore, get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich, shut the fuck up, you fat ugly bitch," and da-da-da-da-da-da. Today, Myron Gaines posted pictures of me and my husband from Las Vegas on Twitter because he was upset that I wasn't saying the things that he wanted me to say. And he called me a bitch whore, blah, 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 all this other stuff. Myron Gaines is a sub 75 IQ Neanderthal with no impulse control. And one of the things that I've learned about dealing with Myron Gaines, because I kind of have to every once in a while deal with him because he's in the periphery. Like the Grapers I know don't really like him, but he kind of hangs around with them and he hangs around with Nick. And so every once in a while I have to deal with him. What I have learned is that when Myron Gaines is calling me every name in the book and telling me to shut the fuck up and trying to put me in my place because he thinks he's just a badass boss bitch or whatever the fuck he thinks he is, if you call him the N-word with the hard R, he shuts the fuck up immediately. So, did I use the N-word with the hard R? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yep. Do I do that on the regular? No. Done it twice in my life. Both of those times were directed at Myron Gaines. Because if he's going to act like the N-word with the hard R, I'm damn well going to call him the N-word with the hard R. And if he doesn't want me to do, and immediately, every single time I do this, well, the 2 times I've done it, he shuts up immediately, and the silence is glorious. So no, do not apologize. Do not apologize. Frank says, "You are watching the unraveling of a sociopath with borderline personality disorder in real time." No, Frank, you're watching a woman who will not be pushed around by a low IQ retard Neanderthal like Myron Gaines. That's what you're watching. And the latest one, and like I said, we are going to get into Benjamin Boyce in a second. Actually, let me save that one. We need to go back and read Frank's original tweet about me. This is what Frank McCormick posted about me a couple hours ago, 3:42 this afternoon. I mean, you might like Myron, but I've absolutely talked to groypers that do not like Myron. I'm worried about James Lindsay. Seriously. The following is my opinion of why we should all be concerned. Since April of 2024, the psychotic and increasingly unstable Karlin Borisenko has tweeted 482 times about him, and that's only a search using his full name. I actually started calling James Lindsay out on his Gnostic bullshit about a year ago, so Frank is being lazy about this. I've been tweeting about how James is lying to people for a full year now. There are way more tweets than that. And yes, I will tell as many people as I absolutely can that James Lindsay is unhinged from reality. He's lying to millions of people, and I always have receipts to back it up. Frank, of course, never has any receipts. James, of course, never has any receipts. The only things they have are things that are clipped out of context, which anyone with a working brain can actually ascertain. Prior to this borderline devaluation, I don't have borderline personality disorder, she believed via her psychic that she was going to have sex with him. Seriously. No, not seriously. That never actually happened. This is a lie that they've made up. I addressed it on a stream last night. I never wanted to have sex with James. What did happen, I'll give you the too long didn't read from the stream last night. I was talking with someone who turned out to be someone I really shouldn't have been interacting with, and he and I were on Zoom calls a lot, and he and I bantered, and we played games and stuff like that. One of the games we played was a game called Fuck, Marry, Kill, where he said, who would you fuck? It was like James Lindsay, Fuck, Marry, Kill. James Lindsay, Chris Rufo, Dave Rubin, or something like that. We played that game quite a bit. Anyway, I said, I'd fuck James Lindsay because he has a giant sword. That became an inside joke between the two of us. Okay? And it wasn't serious. It wasn't real. And anyone who watches my streams know that I joke and banter about sex all the time. And so when I had a falling out with this person because he tried to get me to leave my husband for him and I told him no, and he got pissed off and he started a smear campaign about me on the internet that lasted literally for years, one of the things he did was he took our DMs and he would post them out of context. One of the DMs was me joking and saying something like, oh yeah, I just asked Joshua if James Lindsay would let me give him a blowjob, which was a joke. It was a joke. Which he knew was a joke. He had no problem with it at the time, but when he's trying to smear me on the internet, he takes things out of context, twists them. Karlin was seriously trying to fuck him. No, I wasn't. And James should damn well know this, because I had 3 in-person conversations with James and tons of DM conversations with James in which there was never any sexual innuendo at all. There has never been one moment where any of that was real. But they still talk about it like it's real today. Why? Because they're trying to get people to ignore my work. She dedicated her book's final chapter to him, saying, fight like James Lindsay. Yeah, guilty. I absolutely did. I absolutely dedicated the last chapter in my last book to James Lindsay. It is called Fight Like James Lindsay, and I don't regret that. Because back in the day, before James Lindsay lost his mind, he inspired me quite a bit. And one of the things he always inspired me about was how hard he worked and how much stuff he put out. And the premise of that chapter, and anyone's welcome to read my book and see what it is that if everyone was fighting as hard as James Lindsay was, we wouldn't have a problem. That was it. That was it. It was considered an homage. I really did appreciate his work. Now, I wrote that at the beginning of 2021. I wrote that 3.5 years ago. A lot has changed since then. James has now lost his fucking mind. Do I regret writing it? No, because I think that even if people lose their minds later, that doesn't negate the positive influence they had. But of course, they're trying to twist it to mean something it doesn't mean. Since James blocked her and tried to move on with his life, James blocked me in December of 2023. So my book came out in May of 2022. And if James was really that freaked out, and that smear campaign was already going at the beginning of 2022. That smear campaign that Carly wants to have sex with James Lindsay was already going in 2022. So if James was really that upset about it, he probably would have blocked me a lot earlier than December of 2023. Since James blocked her and tried to move on with his life, she has tweeted incessantly about him. If you only use his first name, there very well may be thousands of tweets in a matter of months. Well, welcome to being on the internet, James. I hope you enjoyed it. I learned a lot from that smear campaign. I learned a lot, and now I'm applying it for my purposes. She created weird art involving her sexually dominating him. No, I didn't. I didn't create that. You might not like it, but I didn't actually create it. What he's talking about is this. First of all, that's fucking funny. Second of all, I didn't create that. A member of my community created that. Third of all, it's fucking funny. And shared a fan fiction in which she is involved in a human sacrifice involving James. The fan fiction rears its ugly head again. John Morgan, after we watched Midsummer for movie night in my supporter Discord, wrote a fan fiction about me based on the movie Midsummer, which if anyone has seen the movie Midsummer, there's ritual sacrifice in the movie Midsummer. It's a great movie. It's about a Gnostic sex cult. James really should love this movie. It's literally about a Gnostic sex cult. So John Morgan wrote this fanfiction, and in this fanfiction, James has a minor role in which I whip him until he says whiteness means capitalism, and then we burn him in a ritual sacrifice. That might sound crazy. However, that's what happens in the movie. That's literally what happens in the movie. So it was a joke. It was only meant for my community. But then James found out about it and lost his shit. So again, I'm getting in trouble for a fan fiction I didn't even write. Melanie Bennett has flat out stolen my work, and she can suck every dick. Melanie Bennett still steals my work to this day because she's not smart enough to do it on her own. Of course, everyone's coming out. Carlin is awful. Carlin is a psychopath. Melanie Bennett is the one that stole my work. Provably. Which we outed her for. Anyway, let's go back. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Carlin recently tweeted, "We need to kidnap James, tie him down, put those things on his eyes so he can't close them, and make him watch." That was a reference to one of my community members saying, "Carlin, we need to Clockwork Orange James into making him watch the real radical revolutionary socialist because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about." And so I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Anyone with a working brain knows that's sarcasm, guys. In fact, in the rest of that tweet, and Frank actually missed this, she later said she was joking. No, I didn't say it later. I said it in the same fucking tweet. It was in the same tweet. Of course I'm joking. I never participated in a kidnapping. Frank also left out the last line of that tweet, which says, James should just do this voluntarily, which means my preference is that James actually voluntarily hinge himself into reality and watch real radical revolutionary socialists without us having to kidnap him and do the Clockwork Orange thing where we're putting those things on his eyes so he can't close them. Of course, that's never going to happen, because if James actually did that, that would destroy the narrative that he is paid to sell by Turning Point USA and Moms for Liberty and all the other conservative organizations that are paying his bills so that he doesn't actually tell people what's really going on and just shills the approved political narrative. It's not just her increasingly bizarre and obsessive behavior. It's the sexual preoccupation with him and flirtation with violent fantasies that has me and others concerned. So because someone in my community made a meme in which I'm a dominatrix whipping James, demanding he say the word capitalism, I didn't create that. Someone else in my community did. And because someone else in my community wrote a fan fiction based on a horror movie, I have violent sexual fantasies. Everyone sees how crazy this is, right? Everyone sees how crazy this is. Well, this very well may be a strange internet fantasy. Other increasingly bizarre behavior, such as her embracing Adolf Hitler. You know, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I like doing things when people say, don't do that thing, Carlin, don't do that thing, don't do that thing. I'm like, why? Why can't I do that thing? Why can't I watch that video? Why can't I consider that idea? Why can't I do that? Can we just admit that Hitler probably had the best fashion sense of like any villain in history? I mean, can we just admit that? Can we admit that Hitler's people loved him? Now, you might not like that, and that's fine, but there's a reason that Germany loved him, and I think it is beholden upon us, if we are being intellectually honest, to look at different perspectives and ask the question, why? So have I started watching videos about World War II that people don't want me to watch? Yep. And I'm not going to stop. And Frank and James can cry about it all they want. I don't really care, because unlike Frank and James, I'm intellectually honest and I'm going to consider information from multiple points of view. Carlin has embraced calling people the N-word. No, I haven't. Only Myron Gaines. Myron Gaines is literally the only person I've ever called the N-word with the hard R. And again, it's when Myron Gaines comes to me and says, shut up, you bitch, you whore. Blah, blah, blah. Get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich. Shut the fuck up. Go away. Get off the internet. Blah, blah, blah. If he's going to act like an N-word, I'm going to call him an N-word. And what I found out is calling him the N-word gets him to shut the fuck up. And accusing her critics of being part of a Jewish conspiracy against her demonstrated, in my opinion, an increasingly detachment from reality. Listen, man, if someone is Jewish and they are doing something that's underhanded, and I happen to notice that a Jewish person, by the way, it's a Jewish person that's responsible for spreading this. 2 Jewish people, in fact. There are 2 Jewish people that are responsible for spreading this smear campaign about me in the first place. Mike Harlow is Jewish. Deb Philman is Jewish. So if I happen to notice that the people who are, quite frankly, being a pain in the ass, they also almost universally happen to be Jewish, I'm commenting on their behavior. And if Frank doesn't like it, then Frank is unhinged from reality. I don't hate Jewish people. I don't care if people are Jewish, except when those people are making my life difficult. And so if those people are making my life difficult, then I'm going to point out, yeah, you're Jewish, bro. I'm sorry. Like, we don't expect much from you. We expect this from you. But if Jewish people are not making my life difficult, I don't give a flying fuck if they're Jewish. I have Jewish friends. Like, Jews have great food, man. Like, you ever been to a Shabbat dinner? I've been to a Shabbat dinner. Shabbat dinner is good. So, people can be pissed off all they want, but the fact that someone is Jewish is just a stateable fact. And if people don't like that, maybe they should ask themselves why. What I've been asking myself is, at what point does her obsession and increasingly desperate fantasy and jokes about kidnapping and torturing him or fan fiction murder spill over into the real world? So now Frank is actually insinuating that I'm going to leave my house to go kidnap James and torture him? Bro, I barely leave my house for anything. I am certainly not motivated enough to go to fucking Tennessee to kidnap James, to torture him. I would rather just continue to post James's tweets on my timeline and point out that James is acting like an unhinged lunatic. I can't be the only one wondering if one day this becomes one of those stories that tragically becomes a Netflix special like Baby Reindeer. I have no idea what that is. Either because of her actions or some of their deranged followers of hers. Either way, people should follow these developments and call the police if she begins making actual direct threats to James or calls her followers too. The fashion and uniforms were by Hugo Boss. Yeah, Nazis had good fashion sense, man. Listen, man, the Nazis were bad, obviously. Obviously, Adolf Hitler was the worst person to ever live. Obviously, 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, not one Jew less. Obviously, that regime should never be glorified. We should never, ever, 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 ever look at alternative views of World War II. We disavow all Nazis. We disavow all Hitler. We don't co-sign any of that stuff. But the uniforms were lit. The uniforms were lit. And we all have to be intellectually honest and admit that. The uniforms were lit. So here is James's evidence against me. A meme that I didn't create because someone in my community said it, but I did post it because it's funny. A picture of me being James Lindsay's worst nightmare with receipts from over 1,000 hours of real queer Marxists on video trying to disprove his insane Gnostic sex cult theories. So because I post a picture of me that quite frankly looks badass, isn't that a badass picture of me? Come on. Come on, I've used that picture on thumbnails. I've used that picture on other stuff. That's a badass picture of me, man. So because I'm tweeting saying I have thousands of hours of clips from real radical revolutionary socialists that disprove James Lindsay's Gnostic sex cult bullshit, that's me threatening James? Yeah, okay. The only people that should be scared that I have receipts disproving James Lindsay's Gnostic sex cult bullshit is James Lindsay and his cult of followers. Yeah, Frank is upset that I don't look ugly in that picture. That's it exactly. Frank's other evidence is a fan fiction written by John Morgan that I didn't write. And Frank's last piece of evidence is a screenshot that he took of me where he scrolled through the timeline of a video to find a screenshot where I look crazy. This is Frank's evidence. This is Frank's evidence. And now James, because James is also an intellectually dishonest douchebag who apparently can't grapple with the fact that I'm a far better teacher than him and my audience knows more about the left than his audience does, and is pissed off about the fact that I keep taking screenshots of his tweets where he is demeaning Catholics and Christians and calling Archangel Michael Satan. James is pissed off, and so now James has retweeted Frank's unhinged, insane thread and said, I can confirm that not only is everything in Frank's thread true, it's the tip of the iceberg! Although I don't look ever. Yeah, James, we know you're not looking ever. Okay, you steal my work. We found you stealing my work on more than one occasion. You post my shit all the time. You talk about me all the time, but you don't look ever. You are so full of shit, asshole. You are so full of shit. Although I don't look ever. I get told all the time that most of her streams are about me. Guys, I promise you, James Lindsay is going to tweet, Carlin did a whole stream about me. Even though most of the time we're going to be watching videos from the Seattle Revolutionary Socialists. Do you know how I know that James is going to do that? He's already done that to me before. She's calling for targeted harassment, including in my live appearances. It's been over a year. Yeah, it has been over a year. And James, we are absolutely going to start going to your live appearances at some point and asking you questions, bro. When James is saying that I'm calling for harassment at his live appearances, what he means is my audience is going to show up at his speeches and ask him questions that are inconvenient to his narrative based on real-world evidence that we have amassed from the real radical revolutionary far left for years. Why is James so afraid of answering real questions from real people who spend dozens of hours a week watching real socialists? Because anyone with a working brain can look at my YouTube channel and know that it is a flat-out lie that most of my streams are about James. But that's not all. That's not all. That's not all. I showed you that Frank McCormick also tweeted about me tweeting at Benjamin Boyce. What happened? what happened earlier with Benjamin Boyce, who I have literally never said anything bad about. Because I actually really respected Benjamin until today. Now Benjamin Boyce has lost all my respect. And it's really sad. So when Catherine, by the way, again, Catherine has actually asked for my side of the story. Benjamin Boyce never asked for my side of the story. Benjamin Boyce never sought to fact check any of the bullshit that he was hearing. Benjamin Boyce responded to Catherine saying, "'Tis a rabbit hole train wreck worthy of some attention. I, hypocrite, did an overview a couple years back." Well, guess what? Guess what? When Benjamin Boyce, this is a smear campaign video that I, hypocrite, made about me years ago. Benjamin Boyce blocked me again. Why? It's a mystery that may or may never be solved. Well, I think we're about to solve the mystery, MP. I think we're about to solve it. Thank you for the super chat. Years ago, the people that started this smear campaign convinced I, hypocrite, to do this video on me. Now, I have since actually talked to people who have defected from the camp because, listen, the people that started this smear campaign about me, they had multiple Telegram groups where they were organizing the smear campaign. They were having weekly meetings about me. They were having weekly meetings in which they were coordinating how they were going to smear me. The reason I know this is multiple people have defected from that group because they felt guilty about participating in it, and they came to me and told me what happened. And one of those people who came to me and said, he said, "Carlin, you remember that I, hypocrite video? That video was planted by, I'm not going to say their names because, quite frankly, I don't want to acknowledge them, the people that were organizing the smear campaign. And when I, hypocrite, premiered this video, they all had a watch party about it where they were drinking beer and making fun of you." And by the way, the person that was the spearhead of this smear campaign, he also flat out said that his goal with this smear campaign, I've talked about this in other videos on my channel, he told the person that defected, one of the people that defected, because at some point the person that defected asked him, he was like, "When are you going to stop harassing Carlin?" And the answer that he got is, "When she is dead." And I really want people to know this, and I want people to understand this. The goal of the smear campaign that this group of unhinged psychos was running on me was to get me to commit suicide. And they almost won. Because at the height of this smear campaign, I was severely clinically depressed. And I was thinking about offing myself. That's real. I'm fine now. But I want people to know the stated goal of the people that were running this smear campaign, the stated goal of the people who got I, hypocrite, to make this video about me was to get me to kill myself. That's very, very real. I found out about that several months ago. I did a live stream about it at the time. You can go back and watch it. I've had to come to grips with this level of severity. Frank McCormick is now hooked in with these people because they don't stop. They never stop. Now, for me, I've come through to the other side of this. I now have a community of people that love my work, that support my work, that know all about this stuff, that know what bullshit it is, and that love me and support me regardless. And for that, I will forever be thankful. I will also be thankful that I am a much stronger person now than I was before all this happened to me. Much stronger. And I know never to put up with this shit again. So I gotta say though, I was a little surprised when Benjamin Boyce, who is supposed to be a reasonable human being, who is supposed to be intellectually honest, responded to this tweet from earlier and said, "You should go watch this with this smear campaign video." And I have to thank the people in my community who saw this. And so many people responded to Benjamin Boyce saying, "You are sharing a smear campaign, you absolute asshole." So many people responded to Benjamin Boyce calling him out on this bullshit that he deleted the tweet. As a follow-up to this, and no one knows about this yet, but I'm going to tell you about it, I sent iHypocrite a DM. Because I met iHypocrite in person at AFPAC back in May. And he kind of like patted me on the shoulder. He said, "You've come around." And I said, "Well, yeah, things have changed." And he was actually kind of a nice guy. He was okay. And he and I had a good little conversation. And I DM'd him a while ago and I said, that video about me that you did, that was just an epic smear campaign that was not based in reality at all. And do you know what he did? I didn't know this. Actually, let me show you this. So I DM'd him. I just barely found out about this. I didn't know he did this until literally today, and I have to thank him for this. After I DM'd iHypocrite, after AFPAC, I think, he took down the original video about me. He took it down. But I didn't know he took it down until today. So I DM'd iHypocrite today after Benjamin Boyce shared this tweet, and I said, "I want to thank you again for spreading this smear campaign about me, which is used against me to this day to discredit me." And I linked to Benjamin Boyce's tweet. Now, by the time he saw it, Benjamin Boyce had deleted the tweet. So he says, "Tweet's gone," and I gave him a screenshot. I said, "It's your smear video on me." He got so much pushback for spreading your smear video that he deleted the tweet. "If you had integrity, you take the video down." And he said, "I took it down a long time ago. That's a re-upload, you can see from the description." And you know what? He's right. He's right. And I didn't see this. This is my fault. I didn't see this. All I saw was Benjamin Boyce saying that iHypocrite did this video on her. What this means, but you can actually see it. He's right about this. Re-upload of iHypocrite's video on crazy Karlin Borisenko because she was exposed for dating a convicted pedo. That's another smear that I've already addressed. I dated someone in college that after we dated, he went to jail for something he didn't do. He had to plead guilty to something he didn't do because the federal government railroaded him. 1 million people have had a story like this. Anyone that knows any of the January 6th convictions know people have a story like this. I have debunked this extensively. I'm not going to do it again today. If you have questions about it, you can refer to all of the other times I've debunked it. My point is this: Benjamin Boyce couldn't even find the original video because iHypocrite took the original video down. Benjamin Boyce shared a re-uploaded video that he never bothered to fact check, that he never bothered to DM me about and say, "Karlin, what's actually going on?" And I got to tell you guys, I'm actually really kind of shocked by this and hurt by this because I actually used to speak to Benjamin Boyce regularly. I used to be on group calls with a group of people that Benjamin Boyce was on and spoke to him like once a week. And after all this shit started, I never heard from him. There was never a DM. There was nothing. And I never said anything about him publicly. I have never been disparaging about him publicly. Because I quite frankly didn't know where he stood on it. And I was like, I'm just going to let it go. And I was clinically depressed from the whole smear campaign anyway. And for a lot of people, I was just like, you know what? Here's what it got to with me. I was like, you know what? If people don't believe me, if people are buying into this, then I don't want anything to do with them. If people can't be bothered to reach out and say, what is the truth? Then I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. But Benjamin Boyce is one of those people that I really thought knew better. And now apparently Benjamin Boyce is blocking the people that pushed back on him for posting a smear campaign video. And so that should tell you where he stands. So that's about all I'm going to say about any of this. Because you want to know why? I spend my days watching the far left. I spend my days watching real radical revolutionary socialists. I spend my days teaching people using primary source content what the left is doing. That is how I spend my time. And increasingly trying to debunk and unteach all of the people who have been lied to by James Lindsay. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I am not going to stop calling out James. I am not going to stop pushing back on him when he's lying to people. I am not going to stop debunking his work. And he can send his henchmen after me all he wants. And he can kick and scream and flail all he wants. I don't give a fuck. Do you want to know why? Because James stopped teaching people about the left years ago. James stopped being hinged into reality about the left years ago. James has an entire audience that is completely misinformed about what's happening. And that becomes clear when you actually sit down and listen to real radical revolutionary socialists. So what we're seeing right now is the flailing of a dying beast. Figuratively, of course, because I don't want to be accused of anything. I don't actually have to do anything to James Lindsay. I can just let him unravel on his own. And I have to believe that if I just keep showing people the truth, that the right people who are smart enough to understand what's actually going on, who care about what the truth is more than they care about hero worship and a cult of personality, they're going to find my work. And they're going to see what it actually is. So there are hundreds of thousands of people right now on Twitter who think I'm insane because of Frank McCormick and James Lindsay. And some of those people are going to be here. Some of those people are going to be here and they're going to be watching this video and they're going to be going, is she actually as insane as they say she is? And you know, maybe the low IQ ones will think I am. But the smart ones will be able to see clearly that it was all bullshit from the very beginning. Because what I do is use real primary source evidence to teach people what the left is doing.